Actually, the first time I saw Kevin Schwantz, I didn't know him, I didn't know his name, but I was at, in 1985, I was at a race in Kent, Washington, up by Seattle, Washington, and I was racing on Bob McLean's bike. I went out on the track to look at this one area of the track that I was trying to figure out how to get through the chicane. And as I was watching the superbike riders go through there was one guy that obviously caught my attention because he was the only guy that came through there, both wheels off the ground, completely sideways, and I was looking to see where he was going to end up. And he saved it, and I thought, wow, that was pretty impressive. And so that was my first time I saw Kevin Schwantz.
So as his bike got faster and he got a little bit more experience, you came together is probably the right word for it. You came together on several occasions, but the most memorable for us people in the UK was the Brands Hatch race. I'd never seen anything like that. That wasn't racing, that was fighting. That was. Talk us through that.
Well, we were supposed to be on the same team, but you'd never know it after watching that race, would you? But yeah, back then it was the Atlantic match races. And it was raced at Brands Hatch and Donington Park. They put up 100,000 pounds sterling gold to a guy that could win all 9 races. And Kevin Schwantz and I were on the American team, obviously, and there were 7 other guys on our team, and nobody once ever came to Kevin or I saying, if one of you guys win the first race, let's get behind you and try to make sure that you win all the races, and we'll split it with the team. So the first race, Kevin and I duked it out, and Kevin beat me to the line. And I remember thinking, there is no way I'm going to let him win all that money. So the next race, we were fighting it out pretty good, but then the last lap coming into the long right-hander before you come on to the finish line straight there, I left no gap for Schwantz, none. But he put his bike in there anyways and ran into the side of me, and I looked over at him and I thought, okay, you're not going to win this race though. And as I came back across the racetrack heading onto the front straight, I saw him there and I thought, you're going in the grass with me. And when I leaned on him, I actually, when we touched, it kept me from going into the grass, but if you remember the race, he was in the grass.
That was...
Oh, I thought, this is the guy I want on my team. In 1989, Eddie and I, he was riding for Honda, and me being on the Yamaha, we had battled it out to the very last GP of the year, and he took it away. He won it. So when Eddie came to my team, I knew physically and mentally that that was the best I had been. So I thought, with Eddie on the team, he's the guy going to have to compete for the championship, and I thought him being on the same equipment, that was the best scenario for me. So I started working on Eddie from the very first lap of our very first test, and by the end of the year, Eddie was pretty upset with me and the team. So, and we actually didn't talk much until after we both retired.
So another one of your teammates, you went some different teammates, but I think the one that I found most interesting was John Kaczynski. How on earth did you get on with John?
Really well. He was another fun guy I enjoyed beating. So John came from being a world champion in the 250 class, and he came up to 500s pretty cocky. I remember our first press conference together. We were in Australia, and they asked him, well, John, how do you think you're going to do this year racing against these guys in the 500 class? And he goes, well, I'm going to be learning while I'm winning. And so I made a note of that.
I just find this cleanliness thing very odd.
Well, as it turned out, there was much more to it than I had realized what it was. I just thought he didn't like to get a little dirt on him. I didn't know that he took it to the degree that he did. But that particular time, yeah, he fell down, and I made it a point that he was real dirty while he was down by doing burnouts as I'd pass him. And so he didn't show up for about a week, cleaning himself off. But John was, he was a guy that, I thought a lot about trying, man, if this guy ever gets it sorted out, he could be difficult. So I had to make sure that I was faster than him after every single test in every race. And then pretty much after the first year, John just quit thinking about me. He was, wasn't too concerned about trying to beat me. John went really well at that racetrack when I wasn't there. I'd injured myself, and I think maybe in John's way of racing, that without me in the garage, he could focus, and he actually won the race. And so he was trying to get the factory to follow his development path, and so they did in the off season somewhat. I had kind of a strange injury by breaking, they call it the medial condyle underneath your kneecap. I broke the end of the femur off, so I rehabbed all winter trying to get the range of motion back. So basically we had to let John develop the bike, and boy did he make a mess of it. Kevin McGee and I was two complete opposites. Where I was, pretty serious with my racing, or I thought I took it pretty serious, and McGee, the year before I showed up there, he rode as a guest ride or a one-off ride at Assen in Holland in 1987. He was leading the race, and I think they had to slow him down to let Momola win. And then, the next year, my rookie year, Kevin won. He won a GP before I did. But as the year went on, I remember we were at a racetrack in Germany, and I was, in my motorhome with my leathers on and listening to some music, trying to think about what I had to do to get ready. And as I looked out the window of my motorhome, I looked down, and McGee always pitted next to me. And when I looked over there, all I saw out the bottom of his motorhome was a pair of Lucky Strike leathers with legs in it. And McGee was under there changing his spark plugs right before the start of the Grand Prix, that motorhome.